is that there was this 2-hour school delay, so all of their Valentine's Day parties were actually canceled today because we have so much snow.
Oh.
Yes. Yep. So hopefully all of you on the line with us today have good weather and sunny skies. I'm outside of Boston, and we have a lot of snow, but the sun is breaking through on this Valentine's Day. So it's a good day to stay inside and cuddle up with your loved ones.
Excellent. Well, it's a different kind of Valentine's Day here in Southern California, where I'm based. It's actually a warm 75 degrees outside, so I think a bunch of Valentines will be outside taking nice strolls in the beautiful weather, maybe even going to the beach today, which, being that it's February, we definitely feel very lucky here in Southern California.
Yeah, just rub it in, Tanvir.
I know, that sounds awesome.
It sounds very romantic. I was in San Diego last week, so I got my my beach time in. So we've got lots of people logging in still, so we'll wait a couple more minutes. And I'll just say that Sabrina and Tanvir and I have had a lot of fun putting together our presentation today. And we might verge into corny land because why not? It's fun. So, so I hope you brought your senses of humor with you, and we might make a few double entendres along the way as we talk about ways to make our learners fall in love with us.
Just a few, right, Cami?
Just a few. We've tried to keep it safe for work, so we won't go we won't go too far overboard. But you can let your imagination have some fun with it. And we'll I don't know. We'll get our smooth moves on and our learning love. We even modified the Kineo logo for today. We get a little special burst of love today from us. So should we get started?
I think so. I think it's about that time. Okay, well, I guess I'll kick things off. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on 8 ways to make your learners fall in love. My name is Tanvir Makhani, and I'm a Senior Solutions Consultant with Kineo. And on behalf of Sabrina, our Marketing Manager, and Kenny Bean, our VP of Learning Design, I'd like to thank you all for taking some time out of your day to spend it with us. It is Valentine's Day after all, so we feel very loved that you've chosen to spend an hour with us this morning, and we promise to share that same love back to you. Just a quick note on who Kineo is in case you haven't spent time with us before. We are a global learning organization. We are a provider of custom e-learning solutions, open source solutions, and learning portals, LMSs. We aim to be everybody's favorite learning company, and we're well on our way. We've won eLearning Company of the Year, as well as just recently Learning Provider of the Year. So we're very proud of that, very excited about that we're getting love from the industry out there. Here are some key areas that we particularly specialize in. So if you have any interest in these, definitely let us know. We work with organizations all over the world. Here are a few examples: American Cancer Society, Philips, Compass Group, UNICEF, as well as a variety of others that we'll show you throughout the presentation today in the form of examples. One of our kind of mottos here at Kineo is that we love to share. If you've spent any time on our website, you'll see that we do tons of market research, and we love to share back everything that we know. Part of the thing that helps us do that is we do a lot of surveys and polls and learn about what people want, what they're looking for, and what they're doing now. And so we have on here a quick poll for all of you that you can participate in right now, if you don't mind. Take a quick second, and if you could answer these questions for us, that'll give us an idea of who's out there and what you are interested in. So that's it for the intro. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Cami Bean, again, our VP of Learning Design, and she's going to take it away with this morning's Valentine's Day webinar. Cami? And Cami, you might be on mute.
I am on mute. I'm sorry. I'm talking to dead ears or my own. I'm just talking to myself. I'm having a love affair with myself this morning. So good morning, all. This is Cami. I'm very excited to be here and get some lovin' going in the room. But before we do that, let's talk about what typically happens in the e-learning space. Far too often, trainers take something like this, a PowerPoint deck, and they turn it into this, a PowerPoint deck built in an authoring tool, causing people to do this. And it's just no wonder that people want to break up with their L&D departments. Dear John, I found someone else whom I think the world of, and it's not you, it's not training, it's the rest of the world out there. So how can we, as learning providers, as people who create e-learning and other learning solutions, how can we turn that relationship around? How can we find ways to bring out that love and feeling in our learning and the people, our employees, our audience, our participants, however you want to call them? And this is where I'd start seeing some Al Green, but I won't. So today we're going to look at 8 ways you can inspire, seduce, and turn your learners on to learning in the technology-based world. So get your red lipstick primed up and let's get going. Step 1, tip 1, is love your learner first. Love them with all of your heart. So often learning solutions don't show respect for people. They don't show love and empathy. And we want to lead with empathy. We want to have compassion for the human beings who are sitting on the other end of the computer and going through our e-learning programs. So how can we do that in some simple ways? First off, we can show them how much we like them through conversation. We can talk to them in the first person, talk to them like they're human beings, and get them to really care, because we really care about them. If your learning department is concerned with improving performance across the business, you're concerned with those individuals. You really do care about them, and show them that in your learning solution. And you can do that simply through tone of voice and how you communicate, the scripts that you write, the content that goes on the screen, and the voice that you use. Show your love in how you talk to them. Share stories and examples that they can relate to. This is something that we did recently in BrainShark, and it's a simple story. A manager is sharing a misperception that he had about a situation that was going on, and it's something that we can all relate to. He talks about how late one night he got an email from his manager, and his manager was getting involved in something that he didn't think he should be, and he was stepping back and analyzing the situation in a way. And that's the kind of thing that happens to all of us. So interject those kinds of stories and examples into your e-learning programs, and your learners will start to feel that love. They'll see themselves in their program. Let them hear from real people. Love is about human beings connecting with each other. So can we share stories from actual people in your organization, your peers? So this is an example of a video wall in a program we did for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And you can click on them and hear their stories in their own words. It's like little valentines for the people in your organization. So tip number 2, make a great first impression. This is like my kids today. They're all going to be in their Valentine's Day parties. Well, whenever they have them now because of the snow day. But they're all making first impressions, right? Presenting flowers to each other. Can we do that with our learners? Absolutely. And where does that start? It starts with your learning management system. So meet them at that front door in something special. So we want you to get dressed up. A sexy, polished LMS looks really fantastic, right? So often learning management systems have your organization's logo in the top left corner, and that's it. And everything else is just text screens, nothing engaging, nothing to pull you in. Lead with your brand and give them something that's going to turn their heads and get them interested from the get-go. Research has actually shown that we really do pay more attention when it makes a good first impression to us. We realize that people have put love and care into this experience and want us to get something out of it. So make sure that you start there with your LMS. This is an example we did for Bridgestone, which is a tire company. Tanvir, you can speak to this because I think it's a really interesting story about working with not only your internal employees, but also an extended enterprise of resellers.
Absolutely. Yeah, this, as you mentioned, Cami, this is the learning management system for Bridgestone tires. And they had an interesting case study, which was, you know, they have dealers and different mom and pop shops as well as national chains that sell their tires, but also sell other companies' tires as well. And so they said, you know, if we create a learning portal that these associates who sell tires can come in, learn about our tires, get excited about our tires, guess what? We'll sell more tires. So that's what they did. They created an environment that drew people in and really wanted people to engage and interact with the learning. There had to be incentive there. And they actually released this, Cami, at one of their big conferences, and a lot of the managers and kind of directors of these different tire shops started turning their heads. They didn't say anything. They didn't make any announcements, but they had it up on a big screen, and they started turning their heads as they walked by, and eventually people got brave enough and came over and said, what is that? And so they explained this is our new learning management system, and we're going to have learning about our tires, and they said, okay, well, how do I get my people on there tomorrow? So it worked. Definitely their strategy worked very well.
So it's not what you'd expect in a typical learning management system. It provides so much more. It's got access to social tools, news, tips and tricks, but also, you know, more formal content. So how can you do something like this? And the LMS examples that we're showing today are built on Totra, which is an open source learning management system. It's a corporate distribution of Moodle, and we do lots of these for corporations because we have so much flexibility and we can really make it look like your brand. So your brand may not look like Bridgestone's. Your brand might be a little bit more typical corporate, but we still want it to look good and pull people in. So we want to give them an LMS that communicates consistently and effectively. We don't want to play with their hearts. We don't want to just throw junk out there. And it all really starts on that first impression. This is one we did for City and Guilds, who's our parent company now. And it really does look positively scrumptious. This is a learning management system that looks like something more. It looks like something different. So let's wine and dine them from the get-go and make that good first impression so that we can pull in and start creating something that's going to last. So it's not just about superficial looks, but something that's really going to last and shows them that they matter to you. All right, tip number 3 here. How can you create a sense of intrigue, right? Some people play a little hard to get, right? That's how you pull your lever in. So how can you be a man or woman of mystery? We want to allure people in. Engaging people and hooking them in with really enticing content is one key strategy that you can use. And don't be afraid. There's so much corporate learning out there that is just boring, staid, overly professional and stiff, and that's not who most of the people are within your organization, I would venture to say. I think you've got people with senses of humor and sense of intrigue. So how can you build that into your program? One is to create a little mystery. So how can you tell a story that's going to incite their curiosity? We as human beings, we are primed to fill that curiosity gap, right? So we want to know what's going to happen. So if you can set up a story that's got a little bit of intrigue in it, so this is actually a compliance program. We're going to talk about compliance today. This is a compliance program on food safety. And you could have had a really boring program on how to cut carrots and things like that, but we set this up with this story, this tale of intrigue. And now you want to find out what happened. Where was that? Is it the rat? Was it the garbage? What kind of created this mystery here? It's why we want to stay up late and finish watching that stupid episode of CSI or whatever's on TV. You want to know what's going to happen. So how can you set that into your e-learning program? We can pique their interest with gossip and alluring tales of what happened. Here, this is another compliance program. It's on information awareness and teaching people to be very careful about what they say in public. And so there's a cocktail party scene here, and these two business, they're not a couple, but they could be, I guess. They're drinking wine, having a little romantic business moment. And she shares a little bit with him, and this guy here on the right, he's listening in, and it turns out he's now got a little bit of information he can use. So we set up some gossip to intrigued you and also as a little bit of a warning, right? So find ways to pull that into your program. You can also make it personal, make it really speak to them, and that's kind of back to that first point we had about leading with love, right? So make it all about you, make it about your team members, make it about the people who are going to be going through this. So who is your customer? This is a program we did for KFC, and we really wanted people to identify with the customers that they're going to be serving. So it should be a personal story. How can you get them laughing? Mystery doesn't just have to be about intrigue and danger. There could be some humorous elements to it as well. So this is a program on understanding bias and diversity. And this is Matthew. He's the one with the hair, right? So the story here, this is a kind of a funny video that sets up a story showing how our individual biases can creep in and change our perception of people. And so his manager is really resistant to having him do a project because he's the one with the hair. And it's a funny video that really shows in context how these biases can creep in. So are there ways that you can interject a little bit of humor? That's going to get people to sit up and pay attention and still communicate the content, but do it in a way that's very effective and memorable. That's really key. Humor goes a long way to it. So how can you make them beg for more? Again, we're setting up a mystery, and we're going to do it with a little bit of humor. So this is a program for a company called Everything Everywhere. They're a cell phone company in the UK. And this program is about cell phone repair. So this is a short video clip where it's really set up as a teaser to the overall program. And this poor cell phone guy is running, screaming across the screen. And then you hear a sound of a chainsaw, and he gets chased. He gets chased across the screen by the chainsaw guy. And you're left hanging. Only you can save him. So it's a funny little clip. There's some funny sound effects with it. And at the end, there's that curiosity gap again, right? How can I save him? I want to save him. It's very exciting. What's the intrigue and what can I do? And that's going to keep you going through that program. So it's little strategies that you can use to kind of, get people interested in you. You want them to call you back for a second date, don't you? So here we've set that up and find a way to pull them in and get them back. So I'm going to take a moment here to have a breath. Tanvi, are there any questions or any comments from the peanut gallery out there? And I mean that with love, of course.
We do have a few comments that are kind of aligning with everything you're saying, Cami, saying that they're kind of in the same boat and experiencing some of the same challenges. So, so far, so good. Taking a look to see if there are any questions here. There is one question, which is the corporate version of Moodle that you mentioned when you talk about making a good first impression. There's a question on what is the corporate version of Moodle?
Well, Tanvir, you're better positioned to talk about that than I am, of course. So keep going.
All right. Well, the corporate version of Moodle that Cami referenced is a learning management system called Totra. And Totra, spelled T-O-T-A-R-A, is actually a open source learning management system based off of Moodle. Kineo has helped co-found and co-build it. And essentially that's the learning management system that we implement for global organizations. We are the enterprise-wide LMS for many folks out there using Totra. You can learn more about it at our website, of course, or at totralms.com. And essentially what it is you get all of the features and functionality of Moodle. So if you're experienced with Moodle, it's the most widely used, most stable, most feature-rich learning management system out there. So you get the full Moodle engine and all the features it provides, as well as the business layer that Totra brings, which brings in that branding element, your reporting, compliance, all of the things that organizations need in a good learning management system is what Totra layers on top. So hopefully that answers your question, and if you have more follow-up questions or need more information, please do let us know.
Yeah, great. So we found our clients who have adopted Totra really do fall in love with it. And it's a great solution for a lot of organizations, so definitely check in on more. Now, the other thing that we're really excited about right now is this one, which is about making it a love that knows no bounds, right? So back in the olden days of e-learning, we designed for one device to rule them all. But in this modern era, we all have so many devices that we are accessing content on and using in our lives. I'm standing here at my desk right now. I've got my laptop in front of me. I've got Skype open on my cell phone in case Sabrina or Tanvir need me. I've got an iPad. There's a Kindle somewhere in this room. I mean, we've all got so many devices. So how can we design learning for that? And it's really about not limiting ourselves to that one device. We need to design for them all. And we're really excited about ADAPT, which is another new open source initiative that Kineo is behind. That's all about responsive learning design. And if you've heard about responsive web design, I'll show you an example in a moment. It's building one version of something that's going to scale across all devices. It can be resized. You can tag content, so if you have content that you don't want to appear on a mobile device because you know it's not just about putting courses on a mobile device, it's about designing for that experience. You can create one program, one shell that houses it all and tag things in very useful ways so that you've got a lot of flexibility with it. And we call it ADAPT. I'm going to show you an example right here. This is something that we just did for Network Rail. And this is an induction program for them in the UK. And what's really exciting about ADAPT is that we've opened up from a slide-based world, right? Back in the olden days, you know, AKA last week, it was all about clicking next on a slide. But now we've got this boundless world of the vertical scroll. When I first started doing e-learning, well, it was CBTs back when I started in the mid-90s. You know, the scroll bar was our enemy. But we've opened up again, and we've found ways to fall in love with that scroll bar. So we can have a lot of fun with this tool and build some e-learning that really will go beyond the bounds of what you're used to. And I'm going to show you right now. I'm going to do some scaling of it. So I'm flipping. I'm resizing my screen. I'm hoping you can see all of that. And as I resize things, the layout changed. So that's the beauty of it. It's one program. But as I change my screen resolution, so this might be more like a tablet size here. And if I go even bigger out, I'm going for more of a desktop feel to it. So even some of the content and the way it was displayed changed based on how I did that, or on what I did. So it will detect your screen resolution and know what content to serve up for you. So that's called ADAPT. The framework's called ADAPT. It's an open source tool. You can learn more about it on ADAPT Learning. And we've got lots of examples that we've been doing a lot more of these for clients. This is a mock-up for a project that we're doing right now for an oil industry client. And it's going to have this nice vertical page. It really is boundless. I mean, there's lots of ways that you can theme it using CSS and style sheets. And it opens us up so that we don't have to limit ourselves to that one device anymore. It's really exciting. So any questions about ADAPT before I go on? I'll come back here where you can see the ADAPT Learning logo if you want to go find more about that. We've got a couple of webinars coming up, so if you're a developer or a designer and interested in learning more about the tool and getting involved in that open source initiative, it's exciting times. All right. Tip number 5. Give them just a little nibble. Right? We want to nibble on people's ears a little bit. Sometimes you don't want to give the whole show up all at once, right? We have a tendency in learning programs to create, you know, these 2-hour learning initiatives, a single event that you sit down and force people to go through. But what if we did more of a slow seduction over time and gave them little nibbles of content instead of one big chunk of it at a time? This is a program for PricewaterhouseCoopers that's lots of little nibbles. So it's built as one learning object, but you can go in and just have short little chunks that you go into. And each of these are just a few minutes long. It gives you a way to kind of digest it on your own and not feel forced. And that's a little bit more alluring, a little bit more seductive than that 3-hour course that you have to sit down. And if you get up and leave, you know, the buzzer will shock and you won't get credit in the LMS. Let's be a little bit more loving and kind to our partners, to our learners. And as we do that, we want to think about making each encounter really count. This is a short niblet of kind of what I would call an infomercial style. This is for UNICEF, and they wanted to communicate to their employees about their new research initiative and what they were doing. And so just in a short, I think it was overall about 5-minute video, we laid down a lot of the key information and the key facts about what they wanted to communicate about this initiative. So thinking more like marketers, thinking about communicating as a commercial. And so much of what we do in the L&D space really is corporate comms, right? It's communication, sharing information, and then inspiring people to do something with that, giving them some call to action so they can go forth and change the world, quite literally here in UNICEF's case. If you love them, set them free. So much e-learning is locked down, and you are forced to go through in a linear fashion from screen to screen. And you cannot pass go until the 5 minutes of audio has finished running, and you've clicked on all 500 things on the screen. And that's really restrictive. Your learners are going to break up with you if you do that because it's boring. You're forcing them to do something. And they want freedom, they want some autonomy, and they want some choices. So this is an induction program for Barclays, and learners can go in and explore these rooms and go at their own pace. I'm interested in learning more about colleagues. I can click in there and find out more about colleagues or company. I've got a lot of freedom and a lot of options. And that's going to make them want to come back. What's the Sting song? If you love someone, set them free. I didn't sing just now. I won't do that to you all. But find ways to give them that freedom so that they'll come back. And here's another little learning nibblet. This is a food safety program as part of an induction for city and guilds. And we're keeping that love alive with some dynamic questions. So this is a short 3-minute video. It raises some questions. It's exciting that curiosity gap again, and getting them thinking about why it's important to have good food safety. So get them reflecting in the moment about why this matters to them. And you'll build a more powerful love connection if you do that. Kind of like therapy in the moment, maybe. So this wasn't even interactive. You're not answering questions through multiple choice or even text entry. We're just getting that reflection to happen in the mind. And that's where our most they say the brain's the most erogenous zone of the body, so we want to tap into that. Get them engaged with us cognitively. So number 6. Oh yes.
I have a question for you here. There's a question that's come in. So certainly the idea of the self-paced decision making, right, about allowing learners to come in and choose their own adventure, if you will, of learning. The end destination is the same, but how they get there kind of depends on their own preferences. That's definitely the trend. Certainly everyone we're working with is looking to do that and really excited by that. And there's really creative ways that we can accomplish that. So kind of along those lines, a question that's come in is if there's still a need to track how people have completed the course or that they've seen all of the content that exists there. If you're not going in that traditional linear fashion, if you're allowing for kind of a more diverse branching of paths, how do you do that? How do you ensure that that tracking still happens on how long people spent in your course or that they've seen everything?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a tricky one because fundamentally, who cares, right? It's tracking butts and seats, and it's not really tracking what matters, which is performance. And that's ultimately what we should be caring about. It is challenging in the compliance space, and I know that's what we're talking about, is that often the regulators and the lawyers want to know that you were exposed to this content. So you can do that in different ways. You could have, maybe you could have a quiz at the end. You still have more of that compliance-based quiz, and they have to pass it, but you have to make it really hard, right? So you make that quiz hard enough that they really have to have gone through the content. And you make them want to go through the content because it's so engaging and so exciting and so interesting. And you're not just throwing boring text up on the screen. You can also, I mean, there's ways to get around some of that through and I probably shouldn't be using that word, but I know a lot of companies just have attestations where you the employee certify that you went through this content, and it's on, it's on them. I guess it really comes down to what is it that you're trying to track and why. and you can certainly build that all in, but compliance training has a really bad rep because it is that locked down situation. I mean, those are the programs where people, have their iPads open and are reading a book while they're clicking next and waiting for things to go through. So just because they've sat through it doesn't mean anything really. And there's different ways to do that. So maybe you want to start thinking about building in more of, and we'll talk about this in a moment, more of a compliance campaign. Maybe you spread this out over time. And instead of trying to force it all down their throats in one moment, you can find little bits to track over time that are probably a lot more digestible and a lot more memorable. You could send out pop quizzes. You could use email to do that. You can send out short vignettes through an email program, or they could link to your LMS. And I've seen some really compelling examples of that recently for a pharmaceutical company where they're just sending out these short little videos every once in a while. And people are really into them because they actually spent some energy. They showed their love and had some good production value for what they were doing there. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit. I think it's I think it's a tricky question, and it's you still are going to have to I guess get the regulators to love you too, and they have a different mindset. They might not go with the wine and roses quite as much as your learner would. And sometimes you do have to meet all needs. And if your objective is ticking a box, then be aware that that's what your objective is. And that can be, you could achieve that by sending them a PDF document and doing some basic tracking on that as well. So Tanvir, does that give some good food for thought, I think?
I think so, and I think all of the different kind of ideas and things you mentioned align really with what we're doing in industry too, in terms of different clients, at least that I'm working with, both current and prospective clients. That's often the case, is that we just have to shift a little bit the kind of expectation or the objectives of how those compliance measurements are made. So really kind of getting creative, like you said, about engaging people with the content, and then once they're hooked, once they're in, then figuring out new ways to kind of get those boxes ticked and get those parameters that need to be measured properly. So I do think that's a good idea. It's just investing a little bit of time up front to kind of understand what the objectives are, and then working together to find how to get there. So I think that was very helpful. We also have a follow-up question on the same topic, so I'll ask you that as well, Cami, while we're on the topic, which is with the open structure, constructivist approaches, the kind of free to choose which way you go. How do you help managers understand the value of it? How do you shift their thinking about the old style versus the new?
Where you have kind of your traditional manager, she thinks that the way e-learning should be is click next to continue, and every screen is tracked. It is a mind shift, and you do have to put on a consultant hat and kind of show the value. I have been amazed. I can digress a little bit. If you've seen me speak before, you've probably heard me tell the story about the CBT lady. And I was explaining to a father at a Cub Scouting event that I was at with my son. I was explaining to him what I did for a living. And he started hissing at me, and he said, "You're the CBT lady." And he went on to describe all these horrific things that e-learning is. It's locked down screens, you have to listen to the audio, and at the end there's this quiz, and if you get one question wrong, you have to go back to the beginning, and you have 2 hours to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And he just described this really horrible, horrible e-learning scene. And I said, we're trying to change that. We're trying to change that game. And I think what's really important for your managers to understand is how much people hate that. And so you can go out and get anecdotes. Find 5 people, get them. Even you could build 2 versions of the same content and do it in 2 different ways, and get people to give you some quantitative and qualitative feedback on it. Have your manager try that. Which do you prefer? It's really kind of mind-boggling the way a lot of traditional learning and development departments treat people. There is this assumption that people aren't going to be able to figure out where the button is on the screen, that on every screen we need to read the audio out loud that says to click the next button, that you they're not going to figure it out 10 screens in what they need to do next. And yet we are also device savvy these days. I mean, it might depend on who your audience is a little bit. You might have to do some of that if you're really with a novice technical audience. But there's so much spoon feeding and this just assumption that people, and quite frankly, that the people are stupid. And that's just not the case for most of the people out in the world. And so in terms of convincing your manager, you might have to show them a couple of different approaches, and you should go out and you should get some data and back it up. Which do you like better? Show it as senior as you can. Which approach do you like better? Do you like this looser, more open approach where I'm actually talking to you as a person, or do you like this stiff bulleted list that reads 5 minutes of on-screen text to you? So you have to be a bit of a field researcher, and you have to think like a consultant. And you have to go out and change the hearts and minds not only of your employees, but also those managers who are ultimately footing the bill and paying for your salary and signing those checks, et cetera. So it may not be easy, but I think if you are willing to fight the good fight, you can make change. And I think Tanvir is right that there are a lot of signs that the industry overall is changing and that people are starting to shift in this direction.
Absolutely. And like you said, Cami, knowledge is power. So I agree that, going out and getting that information and presenting it to your managers, getting the data, you can't really argue with data, with the feedback that you get. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, Kineo does its best to help with that as well. So, the only thing I'll add is if you need some help or a starting point, visit our website, because we have a lot of white papers we've written and a lot of things in our newsletter that comes out every month that talks about this shift. And really kind of advocates this approach. So you'll find some good ammunition there as well to help with that conversation, or at least to get that conversation started.
And maybe instead of ammunition, we should say Cupids Arrows of love or something.
There we go.
That's right. So it's all about love. You wanna treat people like human beings and give them respect, and treat them like adults. I think very often in the equation, in the learning equation, it's we treat our employees like children, and we bristle against that. Your lover doesn't want you to treat them like a child, and I don't want my learning department to treat me like a child either. I'm a grown-up, and I can make some choices myself and some decisions, and I'm responsible. So treat them like that and expect the most from your people too. And that really, this whole idea of that, I mentioned the word campaign before, and that's really what going slow and wooing with style is all about, right? So it doesn't have to be, you don't want to just have a one-night stand. Oh, I should have put that in earlier. That's good. It's not just about having a one-night stand with your learner. It's taking time to love and finesse them over time, and channeling your inner Barry White. Get the soul music on and make this a love that's gonna continue. So think about creating a learning campaign. Now, this is an example. This is a compliance program for an entertainment company. And what they did was they created a series of short videos around these two characters. And this is all dry information security content, right? But they made it really fun. And yes, they're an entertainment company, and they probably got some more creative staff than most, but they did this pretty low budget. So they created these short videos. And then there was this superhero theme that came up around it. So we actually created e-learning for them that was based on these two characters. And it's traditional e-learning screens. So we had the benefit of having some great artwork because they own a comic book company, and they were able to do some really amazing things with it. But overall, it was just telling a really compelling story in a fun way, but doing it over time. So they had these videos that came out. They put posters on their campus, such as that first one. They got the message out in a lot of different ways. They had QR-coded chocolates that would take you to teaser videos on their website. They had, one day they took over the cafeteria menu, and it was all compliance themed. So all the names of all of the dishes were compliance themed and tied into these characters. And so it was like creating a public service announcement, an awareness campaign over time. If you remember from the 70s and 80s, and still today there are PSAs out there, but this is your brain on drugs, or the it shows the fried egg crackling in the pan, or the crying Indian, in the litter campaign, even Smokey the Bear. I mean, he was a public service announcement that started many years ago, and we see his image, and we kind of are triggered to think about forest fires, right? So creating a campaign that's slow and sustained over time, and that's the best seduction of all, right? You're going to pull your learner in and love them with style over time. And that's a really compelling way to do a learning, a compliance campaign. So here's an example of a poster that we did. This is also a data security program, 7 ways to lose it. So the idea here is you'd have some e-learning that would support this, but messaging, posters, emails, lots of ways just to get the message out, thinking more like a content marketer than an e-learning. We've got to kind of find some new and creative strategies to get people's attention and to sustain it instead of that 1-2 hour e-learning program. So thinking in terms of the campaign. Now it's Valentine's Day, and we all know that gifts are really, really nice. Your lover might be expecting some roses from you today or a box of chocolates. Can we do that for our learners? Well, you betcha. There's been a big increase in an interest in badges these days, and Mozilla badges actually has a big initiative. And I'm going to have Tanvir talk about this initiative here. This is for Bridgestone, and they're building badges into their program. And remember, this is for their resellers and their enterprise level resellers. So Tanvir, talk a little bit about what they're doing with badges and what you've been hearing.
Sure. So as mentioned earlier, this portal is for tire reps, folks in tire shops that are selling tires. And so sales folks are kind of inherently competitive. They are kind of competitive by nature and also by virtue of their profession. And so they really wanted to play on that, and they introduced this notion of badges, which kind of complements their accomplishments on the site. So this accomplishes 2 objectives. One, people are getting rewarded and incentivized to complete more and more e-learning that they put on the site. And number 2, people get to brag. Hey, I've got this badge, or I earned this badge, and they get to display those proudly to the entire kind of tire community, if you will. That's part of the portal. Now, Bridgestone's actually taken it another step further and have now attached these badges to actual monetary incentives. So if you earn, let's say, 5 badges, you get something called Bridgestone Bucks, which are actual cash that you can use to buy Bridgestone swag and further kind of flaunt your prowess, your educational prowess, if you will, or knowledge of the site. And so it's a really neat way to kind of get people excited about the learning, to get people engaged, to get people talking about what they've accomplished or what they're hoping to accomplish. And in addition to that, the badges also tie to rank. I don't know if you see up in the top left corner there under the picture. People also earn a rank on the site based on the number of badges they've earned as well. So multiple ways to kind of keep people excited and interested in what they're doing, and always give them a what's next. Right? Once you've hit 1 badge or 2 badges, now I'm going to go for the Conquer the Cold badge. Let me try that one next. So it's a really neat thing, and it's working very well for them. People are excited and really tackling this head on.
And you've got the whole Mozilla Badges initiative behind this, Tanvir, which is, if you could say more about that than I can, but it's really, the badges movement, it extends beyond, Bridgestone. It's really an initiative that we're seeing out in the open source world too. It's getting pulled into Totara and other LMSs, you'll see.
That's right. Yeah, this is Mozilla Open Badges project. So if you're not familiar with that, it's an open solution, meaning that you can earn badges in multiple arenas, multiple areas, not just in learning management systems. And so badges that you earn are kind of like professional stamps, accreditations that you've completed something or that you're proficient in something. These badges can get published online in what they call your Mozilla backpack, which is a central place that all your badges from everywhere that you earn them live. And then you can publish these on your LinkedIn profile and other types of professional or even social areas where people see you and you have visibility. So it's a really great way for people to get recognition about things that they're doing out there in their respective industries, and also showcase that to the world.
Well, and because you can put it into your backpack, you're taking it beyond your current place of employment, right? So ultimately, this is your credentials, your certification, your skills and knowledge, and you can take it with you wherever you go. So it's really opened up some of that, what might have traditionally been locked into one place of employment. And that's really kind of the where careers are these days, right? There's a lot of movement, a lot of mobility. So we want people to empower people to take this with them. I think it's really exciting to see it starting to happen in the LMS. Now you can also build into your system other challenges and rewards. This was a challenge for McDonald's, and there were incentives built right into the program. I mean, I hesitate to use the word gamification because I think there's a lot of misperceptions about that, but finding positive ways to motivate people and incentivize them that are meaningful. This is another challenge board for Nikon. It's leaderboards and roses. They also have they have incentives that are beyond just getting a badge. It's actually going to tie into to winning a helicopter flight over London. I mean, they're really taking it to a whole different level here, and they've got a leaderboard through their LMS. That's another example of a Moodle Totara learning management system. You find the answers to the challenge, by completing the e-learning, and you make it hard. You make that challenge, it should be challenging, and there are ways to pull people in and make it compelling and motivating. So if you want to talk about extrinsic versus intrinsic rewards, a helicopter flight over London, yeah, I might pay a little attention for something like that. That's pretty cool. So, we don't ever want to take that love for granted either. So, baby, let's stay together. I'm loving you forever. This is Al Green. I love that song. I'm so having a hard time not singing it, but so often we do take that love for granted, right? We kind of just throw e-learning junk at our learners, but we want to woo them with style. We want to make sure that love lasts. People aren't made from cookie cutters, and we need to personalize it for them. And we're starting to hear a lot more about personalization of learning. Learning portals can do a lot with that regard, but I think it's also about making sure that we're not forgetting that human connection and getting people talking to each other. What's more personal than two people having a conversation about content that matters to them and has an impact on them? So we've got social tools out there that enable us to get this conversation going, and we should be making use of those, either building them into your learning management system if you can, or taking advantage of Facebook and Twitter and places where you can connect people that already exist where they already are. There's lots of ways to do this, and it's just because we have e-learning and technology doesn't mean we should forget that human connection. It is so powerful. There was an article just the other day I read about the power of face-to-face conferences. And we've got all these social networks out there now which are wonderful for establishing connections and getting people hooked up to each other. But in that face-to-face and that real-life contact, we can't forget that. And that is so important for taking those relationships deeper. So we want to make sure we're not forgetting that bit of it. I think really we've got to remember that learning should be a blend. And it's we don't just learn through technology, but we also learn with real people. So make sure that you've got some flesh time. And find ways to connect people. So one idea is you can actually build into your e-learning program worksheets and action plans and things that they then have to take on to their managers, conversations that they need to commit to and have. So this is a program for HSBC on communication, and they actually had to walk through these worksheets and then schedule time with their mentors or their managers. Building in that human connection into the e-learning program. So it's not just about the technology. It's not forgetting that there's humanity out there and finding ways to do them. Finding ways to connect them to each other. So how about one more? That was eight tips. That's what we told you we were going to give you, but we've got one more bonus smooth move just to make sure you've got some extra protection out there and are really getting your lever in the mood. And that's to ask them what they want. So don't just assume you know what they like and need. Find out. You can do surveys. You can do what we were talking about before, build 2 versions of a course and get people to tell you which they liked better. Honey, do you like it this way or do you like it that way? We need to do more of that with people and not just assume that we know what our partner wants and needs, but actually find out and be willing to take some risks. Be willing to get a few things wrong, and be willing to experiment. So you can have a little bit of fun out there and And that will keep the love alive too. If your learners feel like you really care about them and want to know what their opinions are, and not just in a smile sheet at the end of a program, but really get them involved. We worked with a client recently, and they actually, as part of the RFP process, they invited vendors in to present on webinars, and they had employees sit on those webinars. If you were kind of interested, and they got feedback from real people about, would you like this vendor stuff or this vendor stuff? What sounds more appealing to you? I mean, you could get them involved that early in the process if you like. And I'll be happy to say that client, did go with us. So I think our smooth moves were working there. But how can you involve your learner in the process in a meaningful way so that you better understand their needs and know what it is that they're, that really floats their boat, baby. So that was 9 tips with that bonus there. And Tanvir, are there any questions before we kind of start to wrap up? We've got a few minutes left.
Let's take a look here and see what's been submitted so far. For those of you that have been holding your questions, this is the absolute right time to start sending them in. So please do do that as we get through some of the ones that have been submitted already. Kemi, the first question that I've got here are, what are some budget-friendly ways to improve compliance programs?
Budget-friendly ways to improve compliance programs. I mean, I would say a lot of the examples I've shown here are not budget prohibitive. So you can improve your compliance programs by writing in a more human and personable tone. And that's not about high-tech solutions, right? That's not about dollars unless you don't have someone who has any writing skills and you need to hire somebody. But it's maybe taking a little time to edit a storyboard and address it to you, the human being at the other end of it. Maybe you're finding a way to interject a little bit of humor into your program. That doesn't have to cost money. You can find ways to build in more effective interactions into your compliance. So again, that doesn't have to be about technology and high-end production value. You can build in interaction that engages the learner at a cognitive level. So that could be through reflective questions. Hey, how would you do this in your own job? Hey, think about a time when this happened to you. And you can build in reflective pauses into programs. Interaction, people think interactivity needs to be expensive, and it really doesn't have to be. You can ask multiple choice questions that are more engaging and more meaningful because they have context written around them. So instead of saying, what does ABC stand for, and asking questions that test for rote memorization, you're actually putting, you're building scenario-based questions that are putting the facts and the information into a context that will help the learner apply them back on the job. So making better compliance training does not need to mean throwing tons of money at anything. It's just, I think it's really thinking more creatively and finding that humanity that you have and that you can share with those learners and finding a way to connect with them at a more real level. I like to think that e-learning is a conversation with a human being on the other end of that computer. And if you can create a program that feels like a conversation, that feels like two human beings sitting down together and having coffee and having a conversation, you're going to go a long way towards creating better compliance training.
Excellent. I agree. Good tips there. Thank you. Another question that's come in is back to the topic of, the traditional style of learning where you go in a very linear fashion versus the more free-form approach. Traditionally, when you have them in order, you can kind of sync your audio and your visuals and your graphics, and everything's nice and dandy and easy to build, easy to manage, easy to package, easy to deliver. But when you go with the more kind of free-form, how do you handle that now? It seems to be a little bit more challenging to sync up your elements, your learning elements that are on the screen. Can you give us a couple of tips there?
Well, I don't think the screens themselves have to be chaotic screens. If you're thinking in the screen-based world, you'd still, you could do this in Articulate Storyline or something where you build a branching menu that lets them go off and explore, but you still have what you might call a slide that's got audio synced to an image that's got, so I don't think it needs to be making the content itself chaotic. Just because you've opened it up from in an exploratory fashion doesn't mean that it's just random stuff out there. Although on the other hand, people do like to, think about how we search the internet. You just kind of go out there and Google stuff and you find what you find compelling. You might hear a lot about curatorship these days and curating content. There are learning management systems, and I think Totra is going in this direction too, where you can start rating content and seeing user preferences for things. You see what other people love, and you help bubble the good stuff up to the top, and let people focus on those bits as well. So I guess I understand the hesitancy or the concern there, but I don't think it has to be one. Content's still content, and there's still lots of ways to present it. And just because you've made it more exploratory doesn't mean that that goes away.
Excellent, excellent, and that's definitely what I've seen as well, Cami, is that the change is more in kind of the journey that users take to get to the content, but then the content elements or components or packages of content are still kind of the way they were, or in terms of the access and the way they play.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Well, just a quick time check. We only have about 5 minutes left in the planned webinar time. So I think, Cami, if you'd like to wrap up with a few words, and then I think Sabrina has some announcements as well.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. I hope you've got some good ideas, some solid ideas that you can take back to start creating a more, I don't know, I'm trying to come up with a good pun here. Just a more robust love affair with your learners and connect with them in a more smooth and meaningful way for a long-lasting relationship that will sustain itself into all of your old ages. That's what we're after, and ultimately we're really after improving performance within our organizations, and let's not forget that either. So we can make lots of jokes and double entendres, but we want to make sure that we're focusing on the right things. It's not superficial, but it's deep and meaningful, and ultimately improving the right things. So thanks for joining us today. Sabrina, I'm going to hand it back over to you and give you a moment here. I think you've got another poll.
Yes. The quick poll's up right now, so if you could just take a moment to answer that. We're getting some answers in right now. And I'm going to close it in just a moment. It's interesting. There's definitely one that is leading the way for sure. All right, I'm going to close it. Looks like the majority of you are interested in developing more engaging content and design. And then following that is more effective follow-up campaigns. Great. Okay, so at Kineo we love learning just as much as we love creating e-learning. So if you could take a moment to fill out our compliance survey, that would be awesome. We use that data to put together a lot of helpful presentations, white papers, you name it. So if you could just take a couple minutes to respond to that, that would be great.
And we can send out that link as part of the follow-up survey.
Absolutely, yes.
To the webinar, yes. Yep. Yeah, so don't feel like you have to do that right now.
Yes, you don't need to do that right now. And there's also some really great resources on our site. You can just visit our website, kineo.com, and go to the resources section. This spring, we're going to be having an event in New York City. We had one in December. It was awesome. We had a great turnout. We talked about our Learning Insights report, the top 10 trends for 2014, and this time we're gonna kind of zone in on compliance. So we've got some great things in store. If you are in the New York City area, be sure to attend this. It's going to be a great time. You can email me to reserve your spot. And as always, get social with us. Tweet at Kineo US. I've been tweeting during this webinar. just some of the fun things we've been talking about. Follow us on Facebook and Google Plus, and we also have a LinkedIn group, Kineo eLearning Professionals, and I'll start a discussion in there that you can join. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Indeed,
Thanks,
thank you all very
everyone.
much. We really appreciate the time you spent with us today, and happy Valentine's Day, and enjoy the rest of your day.
And we love you.
Yes.
That we do, very much.
All right, so think of this as our virtual chocolates and roses, and have a fabulous day, everyone. Thanks so much for joining.